Okay. Zoom. And here we are. Wow, amazing. Oh, well. It's good to see everybody here. Hello, my name is Dustin, and welcome to Wearable Fandom. I am excited to have you here on our very first live stream. And because this is a brand new experience, I'm actually double checking here in parallel that I've actually. Excited to have you here on. Yep, you can hear me. You can hear me. I've got us sitting up over here, and it's great to be with you guys on Friday. I have wanted to do a live stream for quite a while. I think some of you have seen our podcast, Wear Mighty Things, where we talk about Roosevelt's, which is one of my favorite clothing brands. But this channel is really about more than just the Roosevelt's. It's actually also about other types of fan clothing. I don't know about you guys, but if you're here, you probably have had the chance to watch Andor, maybe Andor series season 2. And I have been thinking about Andor a lot. I just keep thinking about it, and I wanted to just kind of come on and actually talk with you guys about what you thought about the clothes and a little bit about those. So first of all, if it's your first time here, please like and subscribe. Thank you very much. We are trying to reach the goal of 500 subs, and we've been we're doing okay. We're a little over 300, almost 350, but we'd love to get over 500. For those of you who don't know, that unlocks and starts to unlock monetization for YouTubers, and so it's a pretty important milestone. It's the one that we think of that helps us continue to improve our content, our videos, our streams, enable us to go to more events and things along those lines. So welcome. And I see some folks starting to come online here. We are actually dually on YouTube Live and simultaneously over on Facebook Live. So whether you're here from Facebook or you're here from YouTube, thank you guys very much. It's super exciting to see you. We're going to start doing a lot more of these types of broadcasts, principally because I've realized that, number one, the kind of clothes that I like to cover on this type of channel, they move very quickly. The Roosevelt's puts out something on the order of 10 shirts every single week for the entire year. Maybe they take a couple of weeks off max. And Heroes and Villains, their universe, there are a lot of other brands that put out really interesting and fun stuff to talk about. And I'm going to try to bring and do more live streams so we can discuss and look at the things that we're interested in, learn a little bit more about what you guys like and are curious about. And of course, just, have a good time along the way. That is our ambition. Now, let's see. Okay, cool. Just checking a few things out here as we start to explore and try to understand, what's going on. Let me see. If you are watching on Facebook or YouTube, please feel comfortable to drop a message in the chat. Would love to know how you're receiving me. Can you hear me okay? And of course, I'd like to also know, what is your favorite character in Andor? Which of the characters do you think is the most interesting? Which, of course, of their clothing is what you find most curious and most interesting? And I think that's the area that most people will have a lot of opinions to share. Now, when I think about Andor, I think a lot about the different philosophies that I think are on display within the show. And we'll, by the way, get into looking at some particulars. But one of the things that that really makes me excited about Andor is that it was not created to be a typical Star Wars series. So, for example, it doesn't have Jedi in it. Now, there were some Jedi-ish characters in Rogue One, which is kind of like the later portion of the show, but it really didn't focus on flashy robes or space armor or Jedi outfits, things along those lines. Andor just completely becomes more of a spy story. It's actually more of a spy show. I think it's really important also to say we will not be spoiling anything about the show. Now, when we start to show some of the characters specifically to review and investigate their wardrobe, I don't think any of those will be spoilers from the story. So if you haven't seen all of season 2, don't worry. We're not going to talk about those things. Please, if you post in the chat, do not spoil or ruin anything for anyone. We're here to have a good time. We're here to talk about this stuff. We're not here to ruin anybody's time. And of course, if anybody is a spoiler, we will just ask them to departe, if you will. So kind of coming back to it, Andor is really a different kind of gritty and grounded world. And I'm curious, how important do you think that groundedness has been in creating the success that the story has? If you're a fan of Red Letter Media, when they did their series on the prequels, episodes 1, 2, and 3, not chronologically, but Phantom Menace, Attack of the Clones, etc. A lot of people talked about the fact that they didn't understand the characters, they didn't have a reason to root for them, they didn't know why they should care about anything, and so I get it for sure, but when you start thinking about Andor, it has a completely different vibe. And part of that is because of the fact that Michael Wilkinson, who is the costume designer, in numerous interviews that he's given, he talked a lot about the approach that he had for Andor. He talked about the idea that this was being approached not as space fantasy or space opera, which is usually what you think of when you're talking about Star Wars. Star Wars is space opera, right? Especially the original trilogy. But there are other stories you can tell in that world, and that's evidenced by exactly what we're doing. Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm seeing that. I'm seeing a little bit of a overlay that kind of occurs when I'm looking at my notes, so I'll have to be mindful of that. Thank you guys for joining. It's super helpful to have folks here. Otherwise, I'd just be talking to myself. But Michael Wilkinson talked about, as I said, approaching Andor as a spy thriller, not space fantasy. And the goal was to make characters feel like they were living through history, not cosplaying it. And I think that comment actually resonated really, really strongly with me when I was looking at all of the characters and the different experiences that they have. It feels like a very lived-in world, and we will get into that and talk about those things in just a couple of seconds. Now, the costumes aren't flashy, they're textured, they're worn in, they're political. They also can reflect very straightforwardly status, struggle, and in a lot of ways, subtle rebellion. And we'll look at some examples of that in just a second. And unlike the clean-cut aesthetics of the Empire that other shows have, Andor really presents fashion as armor, disguise, or power play. And I think that's something that I thought was really, really awesome. When you're actually watching Andor, you're seeing characters who are pretending to be something that they are not. And that is something I found really, really to be keen, okay? So let's see if we can transition over here. Okay, can I do that? Can we do that? Yes, we can. All right, this is my first time. I'm on a brand new software package. So this is, I've done a lot of streaming in other channels. I've streamed a lot of games, but I'm trying to make sure that I do this smoothly. So we're gonna see if we can actually do this smoothly. Let's, oh, Gabe. What's up, Gabe? The galaxy is full of stories from all walks of life, so I appreciate anything. Hoping we get a show from the Imperial POV, showing all the things they are made of or to believe or propaganda. Really great comment, Gabe, and thank you for showing up and joining us. I know that it's still a little bit early here on the Best Coast, but it's a really great comment here, and I really enjoyed the different looks that we got about the Empire. For those of you who are big fans of reading Star Wars novels, I know some of them got wiped away and are not considered canon, but there are still a lot of great stories. They actually go into depth about exactly what you're talking about, Gabe, and it's really awesome. And yeah, I resonate with your comment here. So let's transition over here. Let's see if this works. I have to apply sound effects because I don't really actually have them. So is that working? Yes. Okay. So I've got a bunch of different screenshots that I grabbed here and different looks and feels that I wanted to go over with you guys. And let's see if this actually shows up the way that I want it to. All right. There's a little bit of a delay. There's always a little bit of a delay when you're streaming, so you know, them's just the breaks. But let's see if this image actually will come up here. Come on, do your thing. Okay, all right, so that does not appear to have worked. So we're gonna go back to where we was, and I'm gonna fix that. Sorry about that, friends. We're doing it live, and you know, sometimes doing it live means you know, womp womp, sad trombone action. 1 second here, I need to change which what we're looking at on the screen. So let me go over here, and that may work. 1 second, 1 second. Okay, so then we'll open with preview. Just open it all with preview. No. Okay, let's see. Let me see. I think I got it. I think I got it, friends. Let's find it. Where are you? Thank you guys for your patience while we do this live. While we're trying to get sorted out here, what is it that you guys liked the most about Andor in particular? I think that would be helpful. I want to understand how you guys have understood. Let's see. Did that work? Huh. And let me see what else in my notes here. Yeah. Okay. It's always fun to figure stuff out on the fly. It's not cooperating as well as I would like. So let's go over here, and maybe we need to close a couple of things. I guess we're just going to have to do it all. Oh, maybe I can do it this way. There we go. Okay. I think I got it, friends. Let's see. Okay. There we go. Now, I probably am going to need to go back and forth a little bit here once I get into it. And I'll be watching for your comments here adjacently. But here we are. Come on now. Yeah, there we go. Let's get that bad boy centered. This, of course, Cassian Andor, our titular character played by Diego Luna. When I see all of the different designs here, you know, one of the things that I've seen happen from whether it's Heroes and Villains, the Roosevelts, a lot of them will see these on-screen experiences, the wardrobes, and they will actually go through and generate lines of jackets. So, for example, this is a jacket that I could imagine Heroes and Villains actually producing. And when you look at it, you know, if we get kind of into it, there's a really neat aesthetic to it. Now, of course, Diego Luna just looks good wearing anything, to be honest. Let me see. Are we able to actually see this well? Let me see. Maybe I need to do this. I'm trying to move this and position it so that you guys can see it very well. Maybe I want to shrink it down. Oh yeah, okay, so it's showing much larger. We're learning on the fly, friends. Thank you so much for your patience. Let me push the update here and see what happens. Zonk. Okay, okay. There we go. Yeah. So this is, it's tricky to talk about some of this stuff without actually giving away plots. But this is obviously Cassian flying, captaining a ship. And when we look at this outfit that he's wearing, you can see the collar. It's really got this this nice shoulder stitching here. You can see it's consistent fabric here, even though we've got sort of this red shoulders collar. And then of course it's got a the typical pilot collar where you can actually pull it in and kind of like tighten it up just in case you need to create some additional protection for your neck from different sort of weather or conditions. Looks pretty interesting. Yep. Oh no, all good. Thank you so much for joining at all. I mean, I appreciate anybody coming in here. It's nice to see you guys, and yeah. So thank you, Gabe. Thank you for joining. Bazonk. Okay. Let's see. Let's take a look at another example here. Now, this is from the first season, and this was a different outfit that Cassian wore once he came under the custody. I'm just trying to speak very generically here, but when you look at this, if at Celebration there were a bunch of different cosplayers that were running around wearing this exact same costume. This gives off some really gritty vibes, but it also it makes me think of the 1970s, and this is a really cool aspect of the story that they try to tell. Right, they tried to create clothes that made sense, that looked lived in, as I said earlier, and this is a great example of that. There's not too much to it. It's just it looks like kind of a reverse jacket. It's got these orange and white colors, and then there's stripes all the way down the legs. These are actually the markings of this particular facility where Cassian's located, and everybody in there actually wears them. It's pretty interesting, and it actually makes me really think a lot of 1970s type stuff. It's pretty clean. Let's kind of move on again here. I think these next few images are a little bit more of Cassian in his rebel phase. So if you've seen the show at all, it's not a spoiler really in my book to say that, you know, Cassian is actually not convinced or persuaded that he wants to be part of the rebellion. And so the costumes that he's wearing at the beginning of the show change and evolve. And this is something that he wears in reverse. Now, it might be a little bit of a hot take, but he actually is kind of like a reverse Han Solo, meaning that Han Solo starts out when we meet him as a scoundrel. He's wearing that classic vest with the white or beige top, the long pants, and then of course he's got his hip holster for his blaster. And this is starting to move Cassian actually into that direction. And so you can see here, you know, he's got his belt. It's all worn. This jacket is awesome, and I've got a couple of close-ups of this jacket to kind of focus on a little bit of the detail. I really like this jacket, and this is a jacket I could see being used as inspiration for heroes and villains. They seem to be the ones who like to do that. I'm hoping something like this is actually coming for San Diego Comic-Con, though it's not that far off, and I expect that their exclusives are going to get announced pretty soon. last year, for those of you who didn't notice, they actually had done something for the anniversary for the Phantom Menace, and they made a Mos Espa racing jacket. They also made not leathers, but they made sort of like motorcycle leather inspired jackets. One for the Sinar Systems, which are the company that creates the TIE fighters. They're sort of like the design, the manufacturer that creates TIE fighters. They also did one for X-wings, and they had different Republic or Imperial kind of patches that went along with it, and it all sort of fit that leather motorcycle jacket. It was not a leather jacket at all, but it had that same vibe, had a certain level of stiffness. This is exactly the kind of jacket that I would love to see Heroes and Villains work on. And if we kind of let's see if we can, let me jump into a closer view of this. Yeah, this is what we want to see. Look at that. So we can get some up close looks at what they're doing. Now, when you look at this, of course, we've got, I don't know. I just always think that this is a universal screwdriver. That's my Doctor Who response. He's got the universal screwdriver, like that can fix anything. But probably this is more like a flashlight or something along those lines. I don't know exactly what he's got, but he's got a nice little pocket here. Look at the stitching. Look at the stitching. Like, even though this is on screen and they take a lot of care, this looks like a well-produced item, right? This jacket is probably something Diego Luna is still wearing. And then we've got, this sort of pocket, which looks like it's supposed to be functional or supposed to connect in. Unclear what it does, but it looks great. And then we've got this cord that goes through. Maybe this is some kind of cooling activity, something that might cool the jacket off. Because if we go back to the previous one, maybe when this is fully zipped, that these connections actually work in. Probably more likely that it's some type of comms link. But when you look up here, and this one fuzzes out pretty badly, it loops back in. So it comes down here and follows the loop around and then loops back in on the shoulder. So I'm not really sure, it's obviously not functional, right? But what is it? What are they trying to tell us? Or, maybe this is a military epaulette. I don't know. I don't know if that's what they're trying to say to us. Let's see. Then I think I have one more. Yes, on the other side. So then we can see how the sleeves are actually kind of constructed here. And this also looks pretty incredible. We've got to be honest. It's something that I really kind of want to wear this jacket. I'll be honest. Now, here is a shot of Cassian wearing this jacket on Kafrene. And you can see he's, having a conversation with some person here. Who knows? We won't talk about any of the details, but you can see that these must be something like epaulets. These look more like not epaulets, but ropes in the military. Like certain groups are allowed to wear decorative ropes on the shoulder. I don't think that's what this is, but I can't give you a better answer. And then of course he's got this bag that we don't have a lot of view over. It's dark down here, so we don't know exactly what it is that Cassian's kind of looking at. He's looking pretty good. He also ended up with a couple of different characters, and this was another one. And this was a character, he plays this character, Ronnie Gouge is the character's name. This is a really killer jacket, and I only have the one shot of this particular one. But when you take a look at it, you can see how well put together this is, how layered this is. I love the collars. And the collars are often used in a number of different ways. In fact, when we go to the ISB and we look at that, what we're going to see is actually a little bit of a different approach in terms of the language of film and how collars actually communicate your role or position in the Empire. Now, because we know at his heart, Cassian is rebel at heart, at least at this phase, his collar is actually open. And that is kind of an important signal here. But in this particular case, he's undercover-ish as a reporter trying to find out about some different things that are going on. Look at the cool layers though. So we've got this overcoat, we've got this really killer vest Then we've got, you know, kind of a plain shirt. Really, really nice. And then even still, when we get down to his pants, he's wearing these khakis. The khakis kind of blouse down here at the bottom of the leg, but they also have some additional pocketing here. Really killer. I mean, if you actually wanted to, and if you had the look, if you could pull off like a Diego Luna face, this would be an awesome cosplay to take to a convention. I think this would be a lot of fun. Actually, a lot of fun to take with. Let's see, what else do we want to, let's look at a couple more things from Cassian if we have them. Okay, I guess I must have moved those into a different directory. So yeah, so that's pretty cool. Good first looks at Cassian. Which of these is your favorite? Like, do you actually have a favorite? Which of these is the one that you think is actually the best? Oh, let's see. Did this work? I guess this actually popped out as a separate standalone. Here's a better look, actually, of Diego Luna wearing this jacket. And you can see how this rope or whatever pops in back into the shoulder. I wish I knew what that was for. Actually, I kind of don't care. I don't care what it's for, but it is kind of helpful. And yes, this is actually a really nice one as well. This shows a bunch of different views of Andor across the different seasons, Cassian. And again, you know, when you're in a state of rebellion, the open collar is really important. Without saying what's going on in the story, I want to point out and look again at this shot. Notice, yes, his neck is free and clear, but his collar is kind of across, right? That's kind of a signal of what's going on. Down here, undercover, right? Again, tight collar here. This is kind of symbolic of being choked by the Empire. And I think that's a way that different people have interpreted like that particular aspect of the wardrobe and the language of film kind of in play here. So yeah, that's a pretty good start for Cassian. I'm kind of curious. Let's kind of go back here and see how things are going. What do you guys think is actually the best look that we have there of Cassian? I'm kind of curious what it is that lands strongest with you. And while you're here, of course, I want to invite you to like and subscribe to the channel. Wearable Fandom is out there at different conventions. In fact, we'll be at San Diego Comic-Con, finding all of the new looks and kind of sharing the different cosplay activities that go on there. I hope that you will be able to join us there. And of course, if you're there, please say hello. We always love talking with folks, friends, and fans. I imagine that most of the people here right now are friends. Thank you, friends, for kind of coming in here on our inaugural live stream. It's actually very exciting. Let's keep let's keep moving forward here. And I remember, and I made a comment a little bit at the beginning about Michael Wilkinson, who is the designer. He had a lot of very interesting inspirations when he was working through and talking about the different characters that he wanted to clothe. And I think we're gonna, maybe I'll switch over here to ISB. I think that's what I'm gonna do. We're gonna open that with the preview, baby. Yeah. And we're gonna switch back. Show me the ISB-ness of it all. Okay, there we go here. We'll let Cassian drop. We'll let him minimize, and then we'll focus here. Okay. Now, the ISB is a very major character in throughout, and a big part of Michael Wilkinson's inspiration for how he wanted to actually address the different costumes of Andor was to think about it as a spy, as a spy or espionage, World War II espionage, British intelligence, and a lot of Cold War aesthetics is what I want to say there. It's not that we are inventing a new language here. it's more that we're recontextualizing existing clothing and designs in the world of Star Wars. And I think that is actually something that that is actually really cool. Kien Sabe, I hope I got your name right. I assumed you listened to the interview with Michael Wilkinson. Yes, I have listened to. I've read the interviews. I scoured a lot of the internet to try to pull both these images that we're using in the live stream and also the different inspirations. And I think it's really cool to recontextualize the language of Star Wars. It's also a Tony Gilroy thing where, you know, he's actually almost a little bit aloof to say that he didn't know too much about Star Wars before he started producing Andor. He just wanted to tell a good story in an interesting world, and he got to know more about it and understood why the lore and the canon was important. But I think not having that background didn't tie his hands and actually allowed for the maximum amount of creativity. And so when you look at some of these characters, and again, for those of you who have just joined in, we're having a spoiler-free conversation about costumes that were in the season 1 and 2 of the Andor television show. So we're not talking about the situations that lead to things. We might mention a character's name, but we're really just trying to make sure that we're not ruining it for anybody else, because some people just haven't seen Andor. I know, I cannot believe it. I love it. I've loved everything about it, both season 1 and season 2. I want to watch it again, and I want more. I'm also a little bit happy there's not going to be any more, because now I just get to cherish what's there and to be happy with it. You know, it's so often that we continue to mine stories until they basically end up with nothing. But you know, we've got Deidre here. I've lost and forgotten the name of this officer on the right. Kind of coming through again here. I made a mention about the positions of the collars, and that being symbolic to the way that the Empire is got control over characters. When we looked at Cassian, he had open collars in nearly all of his outfits. Now take a look at these guys. Like, look at these collars. These are high and tight. These are actually, you know, the original Imperial outfits were inspired by World War II. Oh, yay. It's always great when I get people's names right. I'm a hockey fan, and it's nice to get people's names right. So thank you for letting me know that I did that well. Look at the collars here. And you know, this outfit is actually really neat in its own right, but you can see very tight around the neck. Same here. This is kind of the motif for the ISB and for the different Imperial officers. They often are seen kind of clutching, and of course they're, you know, not that far away from getting force choked by Vader. Most of them seem to have to deal with that at one point in time or another. We'll come back to this photo here, but this is a great view of Hirt, and when we zoom in here, the detail here is just really awesome. Of course, yes, he's got the same collar. It's high and tight. I am not an expert on the ranks or Imperial insignia, but you can see he's got his own version of the universal screwdriver here. And then I made a comment about Cassian's jacket and the ropes. Here's an actual example of the kind of ropes that different military organizations or different distinctions or different units are allowed to wear for some reason or other. Some were distinguished in one way or another, and these ropes are a sign or a signal of that. Then when we kind of take a look at his belt, you know, we can see it's you know, very proper, very fit, very, very clean. The one thing that's kind of interesting about Hirt's pants, and we'll see this maybe when we look at some of the others, Hirt's pants don't blouse out here at the legs, and a lot of the, I don't want to call them khakis. I don't know the exact terminology for the pants, but you'll see in a couple of the other ISB channels or photos that we look at where the pants, especially in the upper thigh, blouse out. And they're bloused out, and it's very obvious. It's like straight leg, and at the calf, very tight and narrow, but at the up, it's much more loose, and it's kind of an interesting style. Yeah. Okay. So I guess I had the up close. I didn't need to use the zoom. But yeah, it's really nice to see this this level of detail. If you're a cosplayer, these kinds of things are a dream, these kinds of close-ups, because they let you know exactly what kind of texture you need on the fabric. You can see how the assembly is kind of pulled together, things you need to 3D print, like these collar insignias or these shoulder insignias, things along those lines, look like you can get a much better view of these. Trying to steal them off screen can often be very challenging. Now, Major Partagaz, he's also another one of the bad dudes in Andor. This trench coat that he's wearing is also very similar, quite interesting. The belt is common between them. He's big into these black gloves. How do you know? How do we know they're lined? Like, those are lined gloves. If he punches you, you know, it's going to hit pretty hard. And then you can see kind of his belt. These folds, I really like this trench, especially the way it lays across his we'll call it a tunic, his top part of his uniform. You know, it's very clear he needs this obviously for weather or for rain, but it's a really nice slicker. And then you can see, you know, a little bit of a closer view of his gloves and how the actual trench coat comes together. Looks pretty awesome. Now let's go back. And I knew when I was doing the research, these guys are really interesting because, of course, stormtroopers exist at the time of Andor. This is a time when the Empire has taken over the galaxy, and yet we still have certain characters who only have partial stormtrooper outfits, and that's this group. And there is a name for these, and I've lost it, and so apologies. If you know, put it in the chat so we can all remember. It's kind of interesting to see the outfits that these guys wear, noting that, you know, they don't have stormtrooper, they don't have the bucket, as people like to call it, but they do have these goggles. And if you look at the goggles, these goggles are actually super close to what you would expect to see. This looks like the lenses, like in a typical stormtrooper bucket. So kind of interesting. These guys are like humanish stormtroopers in a weird way. I know that, if I recall correctly, even though I've lost the name, these characters were actually introduced back in either Rebels or in Rebels. I think it was Rebels. So it's not that we've never seen these before. This certainly wasn't the first time that stormtroopers or troopers that don't have complete armor have been viewed in the world. This is the first time I've seen it with live action, and so it's kind of interesting to see the breastplate. You know, they've got a lot of the commonalities, but they don't have the thigh pieces. They don't have the cod piece that you kind of wear in the middle. And I think that probably creates a little bit more flexibility and maneuverability for them. But what it does, in my impression, in a storytelling point of view, is actually brings us back to the grounding. You know, stormtroopers are menacing because you can't see their faces, but those who have watched Star Wars for a very long time have seen a lot of stormtroopers, and so you get a little bit used to them, and they lose a little bit of their luster. But being able to see these actors' faces as they go through the scenes where they're playing builds and adds on to everything that happens within this particular scene. So while it's a little bit different and strange, it's actually very useful from a storytelling point of view. This is also very similar if you watch the Last of Us television show and you played the Last of Us game. In the Last of Us game, there are spores in the air and you need to wear a gas mask to keep from getting kind of the zombie spores. They didn't want to put gas masks all over Pedro Pascal's face or any of the actors while they were actually going through. So they changed that aspect of the storytelling, and it works out much better. It lets the characters do their thing on screen, which is what we're there to see. So it's kind of interesting. I am curious what you guys thought of the Imperial outfits here. You know, did you think that these were just the same old that we've seen so many times before? If we go back up here, you know, these certainly echo and feel familiar, but for the most part, I think that you know, these are a little bit different. But what did you guys think of these different outfits? Okay. Awesome. Yes. Thank you. So we are shifting gears here just a second. Thank you guys. Thank you for all the comments. Please do like and subscribe if you haven't. We're going to start doing these on a very regular basis. My goal is to do them 2 times a month. We've still got more to go. Don't take off just yet. We've still got to talk about Mon Mothma. We've got a number of other awesome characters to kind of talk through. But I wanted to take a second and just kind of throw out there and ask you guys, what do you think? What are the biggest and best outfits that you've seen in the Andor show? And you can just drop that down in the channel. Even if you don't, you can just describe it. Just please don't give a spoiler. And I'm also kind of curious, if you're here and you've seen any of our other content, you know that we typically look at wearable fandom. It's essentially expressions of your fandom brought to life by one of the interesting brands. I mentioned a few of them. Heroes and Villains, Roosevelt's, their universe. There's a lot of Etsy creators. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt right now. This is this one's called Pew Pew Pew. You can see it's little TIE fighters kind of flying around shooting. If you had to design a shirt or an item of clothing that was inspired by Andor, what would it be? What would it say, or what would be the design? How would you actually kind of pull and take inspiration? Drop that down in the chat and we'll talk about it just a little bit more. Okay. Now, let's see. One of the big parts of this show is the political intrigue that happens back on Coruscant and in the places that are far away from the front lines. So we get to jump back and forth. We get to see action, but we also get to see political intrigue kind of happening. And it's really it's really interesting to take a look at some of these characters, like Mon Mothma. What's up, Mon Mothma? She's my favorite. Mon Mothma is one of the best characters in the show. And we're going to take a look at her stuff right now. Ludwig van Beethoven, Ludwig. I thought they did a great job of representing the different branches of the Empire through the costumes. 100% agree. I also like that. I don't really remember ISB coming up before. In Rogue One, Commander Krennic is actually part of that, so we get to see him and his design. But I don't really remember feeling the ISB the way that I did in Andor. Like, it's a bona fide Scotland Yard or different spy agency where they're monitoring all of the different threats to the Empire and trying to action them. Ludwig von Beethoven goes on to say, well, at least as well as they could, given the really complicated history of the Imperial costumes. Yes, 100% agree with you there, Ludwig van Beethoven. Okay, let's go back and take a look at Mon Mothma. Now, this is just a sketch of Mon that they put together for just kind of looking at like what's her style going to be. And man, first of all, I love that there are artists that can actually help frame the storytelling and kind of create the tools that are necessary for the costume designers to basically build. And there's a lot of really interesting things. This of all outfits is kind of an interesting one, representing the fashion on Coruscant. And think about like, how would I put this? Think about it as like Deidre, who we just looked at, her ISB kind of wearing her like Imperial clothing, versus Mon Mothma with these flowing robes, these neutral tones. And you can see it's lots of layers, high collar, but it's an open collar. And that's an important signal that they're trying to share with us. This is really good. And I think even this dress, this outfit, this entire ensemble was actually delivered in one of the celebratory scenes, probably the one that people generally refer to as the Summer of Mon Mothma, where she's kind of having her good moment and celebrating. Just a really lovely, lovely look. And when we kind of transition that over and we take a different look at this, even when she moves away from the space of Coruscant, you can see that the core thematic elements of Mon Mothma's outfit are still all here. So this actually could be a really great cosplay option for people. You could actually, this might be comfortable for somebody to wear around just in general, right? You've got you've got the long kind of one piece that kind of comes down here at an angle with an overcoat. If you think back, this is actually also taking inspiration from the Alderaan fashion, like the actual costumes that we see when in A New Hope with Princess Leia. So they are essentially showing the lineage of the thoughts and some of the things that Princess Leia will actually wear on screen later on in A New Hope. Let's kind of close up on these, right? So look at the texture on these. These fabrics are super, super cool. And then this overcoat that's like body length, actually really nice. Check out the edge here. It's not super finished, but it looks really nice. And then here's a close-up of actually the fabric. And I don't really know what to call this design. Do you know, chat? What do you call this design? I love it though. It's like tactile. It works extremely well, but it's something that I don't have actually language for. And then if you look at a fairly close interpretation of Mon's outfit here, this is a different outfit. Of course, this is more of a formal outfit, but you can see the big flowing over cape or cape-ish. There's a lot of capes in Andor, especially at a certain level of status. A lot of capes going on, and you can see that she's looking pretty good here. Quite exciting, quite neat to look at indeed. Let me see. I think I have some more Mon photos in a different folder. So let me. But I will. Yeah. Let me go back here and. This is a good one. Yes. So not of Mon, but this is a little bit of a look at several of the Coruscant. I don't know if you call them Coruscanti. If you think about many of these are, of course, you've got different friends of Mon's here. You've got family members, her husband, her daughter here. And look at the outfits. Again, even for the colors, the blues, these gold belts, the layers. It's really interesting, despite the different characters. They're all kind of inheriting from this common sort of look and feel. And I just love that. I love the consistency of that. I love that it helps me understand these characters just a little bit better when I see these commonalities. I know where they're from. I know about their status. I know potentially who they're connected to as a character inside of the show. Something really, really cool. Now I've only got one shot here of Luthen, but I want to spend some time shifting gears here to talk a little bit about Luthen. Luthen is an important character here in the show. He is very interesting because without giving away any spoilers here, you can see that some of these shots with Luthen, he's got this short hair, and then other shots with Luthen, he's got this, how do we put it? He's got a hair system. He's got a hair system. That's all I can say here. And oh, I saw a comment here, so I'm gonna come back over here. Ludwig van Beethoven says, in Mon Mothma case, the costumes are quite relevant to the debate among the fandom as to whether she made 2 and there was a retcon or 3 and no retcon speeches. Yes, okay, so Ludwig van Beethoven goes on to comment, that is because her animated version when making the speech in the Rebels TV show was not depicted in the same outfit as when she made her Senate speech in Andor. And yes, that has been a bit of an online. Is it a debate or is it a curiosity? People are trying to bridge the gap. Rebels is a lot of fun and a great story. Andor is a great story, and so it's one of these things where even though they don't line up perfectly, we kind of don't want them to be discordant. We want them to actually work out. And so yes, some people have certainly been trying to explain the differences, whether or not the speech was given a second time versus the one that we saw, kind of in the Senate. That said, let's try to be careful about spoilers. A lot of people have not seen the show, so we'll want to try to kind of keep our emphasis on the characters at a high level, but definitely appreciate the comments. And I'm right there with you, Ludwig van Beethoven. It's certainly been fun to watch that conversation go on. Now let's come back and actually look here again at Luthen. Now we were just kind of making fun of his hair system, but Luthen is constantly in some sort of subterfuge. And I made a comment earlier, an observation that the wardrobe in this show is armor, but it's also costumes. And subterfuge is maybe the way that I want to think about it. And so you see Luthen, for those, I don't think this is really a spoiler, but when he's at his day job, he's got the hair. And when he's doing his thing, he's got he doesn't have hair. Okay, so that's kind of the distinction. Now you can tell probably, coming back to our conversation just about the Coruscanti, look at Luthen's outfit here. He's also on Coruscant. He's got this big open robe. Notice that he does not have a tight collar here because he's rebelling against the Empire. He's not choked by the Empire, right? He's got this really interesting waistcoat. His colors are not consistent with the ones that we saw from the other higher status Coruscanti, and maybe that's actually because he's not quite exactly at their level. Maybe he's not a supremely wealthy man. He is an antique dealer, and so there's a little bit of difference here. But I love this outfit. He wears this outfit several times in different episodes. Really an interesting character in Luthen, and this would probably be, if I was actually going to cosplay an Andor character, this would probably be the one that I would. I'm not quite as I'm nowhere near, I should say, as old as our Skarsgård. Sorry, I'm blanking on everybody's name. It's Friday afternoon. I'm blanking on everybody's name. But I'm not anywhere close to the age of this actor. But he's certainly really great in this role and something worth mentioning. Now let me switch back again here to the main. Thank you guys again for showing up. For those of you who haven't been here before, this is Wearable Fandom. We talk about literally that wearable fandom that you can wear around to your day. I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt right now. I wear a lot of these types of shirts. I wear a lot of fun and interesting jackets. Would love to know what kind of stuff that you guys wear. It's really what this channel is about. If you're having fun listening to our conversation about Andor, by all means, please drop a comment, or if you're having fun, like and subscribe. Most of the time when we do live streams, we're going to be going through and looking at new releases of different brands. So the Roosevelts will make drops on a weekly basis. Heroes and Villains usually have at least new t-shirts every week. We're going to start bundling those together and start going through and looking at and trying to figure out what we like and what we don't like. And so I hope that that will be valuable for you guys, and that we'll be able to actually make a useful set of live streams for you all. Okay, now let's see. So my next question for you guys is, what is the best costume moment in the series? That's really what I want to ask. Let me see. Oops. Come back. There we go. So without giving that away, tell me what you think is the best costume moment that you liked. What did you like? What did you not like? It's something that I would love to hear what other people thought. Once we get a few answers from the audience, I will add mine, and I'll explain to you guys what I think the best moment is. Now, let's go back and take a look at a few other shots that I've got here. Oh yes, oh yes, that's right. We would be remiss if we were not to include, Cyril and other folks. So let's bring these guys up. There we go. Boing. Okay, cool. Love it. All right. Yeah, I'm gonna have a much better system for doing this when we come back around for our next cast. But let's take a look at some of the people that make Andor feel lived in, and start with these guys. These guys are the Aldani. If you don't recognize them right from the go, those are the Aldani. And the Aldani are one of the first big point plots in the first season. And, you know, this is really interesting because you can tell that they're taking tribal inspirations. You look at these hats, look at the fur overcoats, look at the, you know, the poles and the marching poles. And then, you know, you get a little effect like this, which this could certainly be this belt. It kind of looks like this is a sporran in a kilt. They're not wearing kilts, but you know there's a little piece that's kind of hanging down here. From a distance, it kind of looks like a piece of tech. It kind of looks like a piece of tech here. You can see different jewelry and things along those lines. These characters are awesome though, and this is just all background for us to just be able to delight and just kind of consume deliciously. When we look at a few more of the key characters in the show here, you know, we've got Cassian's mom, we've got Bix, we've got a bunch of different other characters. Again, look at the necklines and the storytelling, right? You can see, you can look at and just tell by the way that the necklines are created whether or not these characters are rebels or not. Yeah, it's there are a couple of exceptions here, but these characters all look lived in. These outfits look amazing. One of my favorite characters is Clea. This, in fact, actually is my favorite wardrobe outfit that Clea wore. This was the outfit that Clea wore at Luthen's shop. I think that I loved the entirety of it all. I loved the neckline. It was just a really great look. But when you take a look at some of these other rebels, you can see, you know, we got a little more Aldani up here, but look again at the necklines, right? Open necklines. And look at this killer jacket here as well. This actor is, this is the cousin that's on, what's the name of that show? I've like lost my brain. I don't know why I came on live when I can't remember anything. You guys have to help me out. But again, different rebels. You can see all of them layered clothes, but they all look appropriate. They look consistent. Nothing that you look at here looks like it doesn't belong in Star Wars. And I think that's really outstanding. Now, let's take a look at Cyril. And we would be remiss if we did not take a look at Cyril. And so let's start off back here at the beginning of Andor. Actually, this is in the first season. This is a scene in the first season. You can see this outfit, and this is, I think, called Premon, Premon. He's part of like this security corps, and this is the outfit that they wear. And to be honest, if you look at it, it's a nice looking outfit, but it also kind of looks like an advanced rent-a-cop outfit, which may not actually be a fair criticism, but it's not armor. It's just sort of decorative to kind of make you look a little bit more tough than you are. It's kind of like if a guy's wearing like a bulletproof vest or something along those lines, he looks a little more official than if he isn't. Cyril's a great character. And you can see here, you know, his neckline, of course, it's not open, so he's kind of under the boot of somebody. But when we see him a little bit later, his outfits evolve considerably. And this is this character is his boss. In Pre-Mon, you can see, you know, he's kind of just wearing this interesting coat or jacket. But this is Cyril's attire that we see in a lot of the second season. He's wearing this high collar, right? He's basically under control of the Empire. They have this strange tie where it's like this little grommet that's in the front of your shirt, and you just bring the tie through. So you don't tie it around the neck at all. You just pull it through. And I think that's super weird. But you know, it is different. It is different for sure. Cyril has a few other looks here. This is another look at his squad when he's Pre-Mon. Look at this. Look at this cap that he's wearing. Like, these guys look like kind of like play cops, and that's kind of what they are. They're out towards the. They're not in the inner system. You know, I don't think this is the Outer Rim officially, like in canon of Star Wars. But these guys are out here doing their thing, and you know, they just kind of look like rent-a-cops. They're the hired toughs. And they're not really that intimidating, to be honest. It's just not that intimidating overall. And I think that is kind of a bit of a miss. I want to come back to Mon for just a second, but let me check. I think I said Andor spoils for us choice, perhaps the Imperial Ball, the wedding on Chandela, but we cannot ignore Varian Sky. Varian Sky. So I did say that Clea was my favorite, but Varian Sky is actually something that we are going to talk about in just a second. Ludwig van Beethoven. I have a lot to say about Varian Sky. All right, let me see. But before we do that, let's kind of come back to Mon. I wanted to actually bring up this view of Mon. And this is kind of like a 3-up look at all of the different, not all, but several of the different outfits that were worn. And I love the consistency here, not just in terms of how she's reflected, but you can see she's still wearing this kind of over outfit. Even when she's in this more formal attire with the gold overcoat, it's really awesome. I actually very much enjoy seeing all of these different details here. So wanted to just kind of come back to Mon. Now, let's see. Let me switch gears here. I'll have a little bit better structure here when we do the next one. I was trying to actually figure out how to get this working. Usually I'm used to using 2 machines at the same time, and I'm doing it all with one, and so that creates a little bit of strangeness here, but thank you. Yvonne Rathbone says, one favorite for me was Mon dropping her blue Senate cloak for Cassian's long cloak. Really great storytelling with the costumes. 100% agree. 100% agree. Welcome to the cast, and thank you very much for your comment. Now, let me see. How am I going to... Varian Sky. We got to talk about Varian Sky. We can't not talk about Varian Sky. Let's see. How do I do this? All right, I need to make a little bit of a tweak here. One moment. Friends, I think I know what to do. We'll do not that one. How about that one? And how about that one? And there. Let's see. Let's see if that works. Yeah, we're trying to talk about these things without giving anything away. So appreciate your comment, Yvonne, and thank you for joining. I am trying to avoid giving anybody any spoilers. And Varian Sky. Let's see. So let's see if this takes. Is that working? Is it working? Huh. 1 second. That does not seem to be working, so I may have to shift up here. 1 moment. Huh, I thought this would be easier. I'm using Prism Live Studio. Do any of you live stream also? It would be interesting to know if there's any great... Let's see, which one is that? I guess that is what I need to do. Okay, then that can be true. Window capture. Okay. So while I'm here, any other great mentions of, there we go, boom. All right, come here, Varian Sky. Now, I didn't spend a lot of time pulling Varian Sky because he was just all too good. Yeah, baby, look at that guy. So in this, again, I talked at the beginning of the episode that one of the things that was so exciting to me to make me want to talk about this in the first place was the way in which the fashion and the wardrobe was actually used very intelligently to help support the narrative. And in this case, Cassian, without, again, giving away too much, he's undercover here as a cloth merchant. I guess he's a designer who's trying to buy fabrics in the place where he's at, and that's really all I can say. And so when you look at this character, first of all, check out these shades. These are awesome. I want these. I bet these are available. In fact, there are a few Instagram accounts that I follow that have listed out and shown where his boots are purchasable. And I'm betting that these shades are also probably available. Love this look. And I love how it contrasts what we've seen from him in the past. But then let's kind of move down. We don't have a full body here. We might be able to find a full body of him here. But again, he's coming with this really dark robe. You can see he's got the underlayer of this vest, and then he's got yet another layer and another layer underneath it, and he looks really cool. In fact, actually, let's just look up Varian Sky. Yeah, let's just find some more photos of him, and we'll do it that way. There we go. Yeah, so this is kind of useful, I guess. Varian Sky. This is the full length, so you can see it's kind of like this deep dark purple, and it has more of a cloak feel. You can see he's got these nice gloves. Really good looking design. Switch over here. This is an on-screen shot, and you can see he just looks amazing. He just really looks incredible here. This easily could be one of the favorites. This overcoat that Diego Luna is wearing, I also did not bring a photo of that in, but this is an amazing outfit as well. And this kind of echoes back to Yvonne Rathbone's comment earlier about how well that cloak scene looked. Yeah. I guess there's more of these than I thought. Okay, now let's take a look at one more character here. Now, if you have seen Rogue One, and Rogue One's been around for a while, so I don't feel so bad about it. This is Commander Krennic's, I guess this must be a formal dress uniform. We see him wearing something like this where he's got the cape and the outfit in Rogue One, but he looks a little more formal here, and this is actually kind of neat. Notice again the motif of the collar. Like I know I keep hammering that, but it's this consistent thing that costume designers create and invent a language that supports the storytelling, and you don't even know it. You actually feel it. You just start to feel about certain characters. And then of course this one over here he is again, Varian Sky. Probably the best male moment. So I'll go with my Clea for the best look for ladies, and I will back up Ludwig van Beethoven's comment about Varian Sky for the best male look, honestly. Mon was great too. Let's not forget about her. I mean, the whole cast looked great. That's part of the reason why we're here, to be honest. That's one of the reasons why I am actually so excited to have spent a little bit of time talking with you guys. Now, yeah, so let's think about it. So we talked a little bit about the language of the clothing and the fashion that were kind of introduced here. We talked about how the designer pulled from World War II era espionage, British intelligence, and Cold War aesthetics, and that the goal was not to invent fashion, but to recontextualize it into the Star Wars language. And I think it was a smash hit, smash success in doing that. There are a lot of connections that we draw back to real world fashion and history, and it's one of these things where the that each piece reflects restraint, elegance, and in a lot of ways the coded rebellion, especially for Mon Mothma. I've heard that if you look closely at Mon Mothma's outfits, you can find hidden, actually, rebellion insignias. Have anybody seen that? Has anybody seen that in anything? Let me see. Let me see if I can find it. The hidden symbolism in Mon Mothma's costumes. Interesting. I don't see them. I'm looking for them, but I don't see them. I don't see them. If you find them, drop us a comment or drop us a note. And Ludwig has another comment here. It might be wrong, but I have a memory that one of the visual dictionaries at the time of Rogue One made it canon that Krennic's uniform didn't formally include a cape, but Krennic himself added the cape to the uniform to add to his sense of self-grandeur, and it was just tolerated. That carries over to Andor, where we contrast him with the other Imperials we see. Really great observation. That's so much fun. And that's probably true. I want to believe that that's true. Ludwig and Beethoven. I want to know that that's true or believe that that's true, because that's super, super fun. It fits the character. It fits Krennic as a character. And I would love for that to be, completely on point. All right. So we are just going to kind of keep this to about an hour. We could talk about this for days. I know we could talk about this for days. I really appreciate all of you guys coming. We just kind of did a recap. Look, tell me what other films or screen fashion that you would love to talk about. Also, I want to let you know that we're going to start doing these regularly. I'm not clear that I'm going to commit to a weekly, but that is my ambition. My ambition is to middle of the week, and I'm going to have to pick it based upon when the different fashion reveals are released. A lot of time there are Tuesday, Thursday drops, and if that happens, we'll go Thursdays. And on Thursdays, we'll take a look at everything that's kind of come through. A lot of it from Star Wars, but of course Marvel, Disney. There's a lot of other fandoms that we also are excited to talk about. But tonight, we saw how fashion in Andor wasn't just about looking good. It was really about storytelling. And I think that's what got me so excited to want to put and do all of the setup and configuration to be able to come on live and kind of talk with you guys. Whether it was Cassian's grit to, Mon Mothma's high society diplomacy, wardrobe really helped shape every arc of the season. And if you haven't seen it yet, I'd love to hear from you. You can always drop us an email, wearablefandom@gmail.com. That's where we are located. You can send your ideas about what we should be talking about next there as well. Or, of course, you can just drop a comment here, and we'll certainly take all of that feedback. The idea is to be useful, to be helpful, and to talk about stuff that's fun with some friends. Next stream, what do you think? Should we talk about the Mandalorian's armor evolution? Should we talk about Loki season 2 with the time slipping styles that they kind of introduced? It's up to you guys. I'll come up with some ideas, but I would love to be influenced and driven from your input. So by all means, please give us a comment and let us know what sounds like fun. Now, lastly, I'm going to leave you guys with the request to subscribe, drop a comment, and of course you can follow us all over. We are on Facebook, we are on YouTube, which is probably where most of you are watching right now. We are also on Instagram @WearableFandom in every one of those places. And I think that will do it here for us. Thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with us. It was really fun, and we will see you next time. So long.